Welcome everyone to this episode of the Expansive CEO Podcast. We are here together today. I'm your host, Hannah. You got it. Lauren Ammon is here with me today. Uh, we've been talking about all kinds of stuff. I'll just put it there. And going through, really talking through like kind of the stuff that's been coming up, the heaviness that's been just everywhere lately, and how do we move through it? I think that is actually um, one of the most valuable conversations we could have today is when we are, talking about leadership and systems and money, when we're talking about this framework of discovery, alignment, and expansion. Um, Within all of that is still the human experience, right? And like what's happening in our families, in our businesses, in our roles, but also literally in the world. And there's been a lot, a lot happening. And so again, like how do we process things together without abandoning ourselves? And that was where we kind of wanted to dive in today. What are you feeling, Lauren?
Yeah, I think now maybe more than ever, particularly in our lifetimes, right? Being the elder millennials, well, for any generation really, but now more than ever, it's so important to know yourself.
Hmm.
And we talked last week about this idea of self leadership, and to your point, like how that then translates to this discovery, alignment, and expansion of knowing yourself to know how to process what's going on without getting lost in the shuffle. And, there's strong opinions everywhere and there are strong viewpoints everywhere. And it's very easy to get sucked into your own personal dogma, however, that has formed throughout your life. And while there is comfort in that dogma, because it's what you've known, it's how your belief system was created, maybe there's not necessarily always truth in that dogma. Right, and there's an opportunity to really step into your own awareness to really figure out kind of what we were talking about before we hopped on. Where am I putting up the boundaries, and not to cut people out or shut people off or anything like that, but where am I putting up the boundaries in order to allow myself to process what's going on without getting sucked into anything or sucking others into my world?
Hmm.
As I'm processing something, right? Because we don't know truths until we're through an experience. You can't figure things out in the how do I say this? You can't take the lessons from what you experience while you're in the thing because it's not over yet. You haven't gone through the entire from beginning, middle to end. So how do you raise enough awareness to stay true to yourself as you're going through it and give yourself enough time to get through it to understand what it is you've gone through?
Yeah, that's such a good point. Y- yeah, that is such a good point that you can't harvest the lesson early.
Yeah.
You really can't. Did we talk about this last week? Did we? That when you plant the seed, that or I'll just you do this metaphor again because it's so applicable that when we plant seeds of what we want to create next or what's coming, what's the vision, what do you want to experience, we plant those seeds, then it has to grow, right? The seed has to germinate in the soil or in the water, however you're germinating your seeds. You got to germinate the seed, and then that little sprout has to push its way through the shell of the seed. That's a lot of friction, that's conflict, all of it. It has to move through and do something difficult and break out, and then it has to be, planted and nurtured in the way that it needs to be the right amount of sunlight, the right amount of water, the right amount of nutrition, whatever that looks like for that little seed. But you can't, like, if you're trying to harvest it early, you're not getting the thing, right? It's not an apple tree yet if you're like, "Ooh, here's my sprout. It's an apple tree sprout. I'm just gonna take the sprout, and I got my little sprout." I'm like, "Wait a second, you didn't let it grow into what it's meant to be and go through a season and go through its cycles until it's mature enough to bear fruit for you to be able to harvest, literally harvest the apples, or in this case, harvest the lesson of what, we've been through, what we've learned. It takes time, and sometimes we don't want that. We want to get out of the feeling of it
Mhm.
so that we don't have to, okay, I'm done. I don't want to feel this conflict anymore. I don't want to feel these feelings anymore. I don't want to feel this pressure anymore. Whatever it is that you're trying to get out of. I don't like this uncertainty anymore. We try to make certainty out of it, or we try to make, well, here's the lesson.
Yeah.
Great, I learned it. I'm done. Yay.
Yay.
Before we've actually moved all the way through it.
Yeah. And there actually is a connection energetically to this concept, right? It's the experiential way. It's the human experience. Is that it's actually really vital and for us, whether you're running a business, whether you're a leader in a business, to go through the whole cycle, even when that cycle feels really heavy or you think it's going to come crashing down and end in quote unquote failure. It's really important to go through beginning, middle, and end because you can't see the bigger picture. You can't see the lesson. You can't see what you take forward or leave behind until you're done. And it's like we to your point, we all want to rush through the discomfort or the heaviness or the um, you know, pain. Or sometimes we swing the pendulum and only want to sit in the discomfort, in the pain, right? But it's recognizing that as you're going through something, not everything is supposed to be easy. I mean, take the seed, for example. Like, I don't know how to say it. It's not easy for a seed to grow. Like, it's like, it needs a lot of stuff. And to your point, there's a lot of friction. There is a lot of physical friction that exists in getting a seed to sprout through the earth. But that doesn't mean that it's not important. It doesn't mean it's valuable, or not valuable. Right. And oftentimes when we rush through the thing because we don't want to feel it or we don't know how to feel it or we don't know how to process it, we yank ourselves out of the experience too early. And we run the risk, again, this has an energetic connection. We run the risk of staying in that cycle over and over and over and over and over until we're like, okay, I'm just going to go through it. I've got to go from the pain to find the peace on the other side, or I've got to go through the struggle, or I've got to go through the thing. And that's been something really big for me is like lately, it's like we all just want things to be easy. And yes, I know the world is heavy and we just like can see a ray of sunshine somewhere. And it's like, how do you find the balance between knowing that we've got to go through some difficult things and not getting lost in the heaviness of what's going on around us?
Mhm.
And I don't know that I have the answer to that, but I'm just saying, I think that's the existential question right now.
Yeah, and to go from, well, because we are both here in kind of different ways to go through things and then teach from the experience,
Yes.
right? And one thing that has come up even just this past week. So we're recording this on Friday, March 6th, just so to put a timestamp on it so you know where we are in the world at this moment. So if you listen to this, who knows next year. Um what was going on Friday, March 6th, 2026, right? There's a lot. There's a whole bunch and it's not great. From the Epstein files to the new war with Iran to the continuing conflicts all over the place, like death, destruction, horrifying things that we're learning all the time, institutions crumbling around the world. It's a lot collectively. There's a lot happening. And so in my own system, this is where we're going to bring in the human design piece for a little bit here. This is where knowing yourself can be super, super helpful, and knowing the people around you. And so I'm going to give an example from my weekend, last weekend. Last Sunday, I was feeling it. I was feeling the heaviness. And I've mentioned this a few times on the podcast lately too, that I've had a hard time showing up fully because I feel there's like so much heaviness
Mhm.
that it's like it feels inauthentic to not address it and to just, post something positive or happy or like there's like I'm feeling that conflicted feeling. And Sunday there was just, you know, stuff piled up on top of stuff piled on top of stuff, and I was just like, "Ugh, it's so like it feels bad." And I have an undefined solar plexus, that emotional processing center not being defined. One of the ways that one of the metaphors I like to use here is it's like emotions, the feelings around us are like the ocean.
Mhm.
There's so much, they're so deep, there's so much to feel, there's so much going on at any given time. And if you are undefined here, which is about half the population, a little less than half the population, we are undefined. Lauren, you're undefined too, right? Like we, we match in that way. To where, so if you are undefined, you don't have that boundary, you don't have that border of
You don't have the natural boundary and border.
the natural border. Yes, like in your energetic profile versus someone who is emotionally defined, who has that border. So if you go in your chart and you look at your solar plexus, if it's colored in, that means you have your own boundary. Your experience of this is what it feels like to process my own emotions, and your emotions come from within you. Um, and in our ocean metaphor, it's like you have a boat in the ocean. You have a boundary around you that says, "Oh, this is my emotion to feel and to process." And I have my own internal process that I go through, that I filter things through, and then you have your little boat. Well, on the other side, not having that definition, it's like being dropped into the ocean with no boat and no boundary, and you're just like, "I feel the whole ocean."
And hoping to God you can swim.
Yes, hopefully you can swim, yes. And hopefully it's not too much, right? Like the waves aren't too big. All of that. And so going back to my experience this weekend, I was feeling all the heaviness. It was just like, well, and I was talking to my husband who is emotionally defined, and he said, "Yes, I am also aware of all of these things that are happening. I also don't feel good about any of them. I feel very angry about a lot of the things that are happening, um, and or don't agree with a lot. Just a lot. He has his own feelings about them, but he said for him, it's like it doesn't feel helpful for me to sit and feel sad about it. That doesn't feel like it's helping anyone else if I go into the sadness of what's happening and feel it myself." And it was such an interesting thing to hear him say, because the immediate like visual I got in my own mind was like, "Oh, it's like he's saying, I recognize that." Like he is sitting in his boat in the ocean and he's saying, "I recognize all the feelings that are right there. I see them outside of my boat. I don't want to bring those into my boat and process them because it's not going to help." It's not going to help collectively if I take that on as my own. So I'm gonna let I recognize it. I understand that it's a problem. I am not happy about any of it, and I don't need to feel sad about it myself. And it was so interesting. And there's like, I don't want to say that there's like emotional bypassing happening there either. Like that's not really what we're talking about at this moment. I don't necessarily think that that's what was happening. Again, like the emotional intelligence was there. It's just like I get to choose. And where for me, it was like, I don't even feel like that's an option, right? Again, I don't have a boat. I'm feeling all of it. I'm processing all of it. And it was that reminder of like, yeah, like, but I need to just let it go through. And I've said this 100 times on the podcast and to clients, like when you are undefined in those centers, you are meant to be a sieve, not a sponge. We're not, so, when you're soaking it up, and that's, there are times like certain, absolutely 100%, even though I know this, there's still times when I'm soaking it up, I'm sponging it
Mm,
up
yeah.
versus filtering.
Yeah, and that goes back to what we talked about before we hopped on, because listener, we try to, like, go through things and just really kind of find our jam. This idea that it's not always to be 100%. Like, yes, to know yourself is really important, because that way you can start to recognize, like, "Oh, it is hard for me to shut this off right now," or "I feel a little bit more consumed by it," versus Adam, who is different in these ways, and sorry, your husband, and how he, experiences it. And it's like, it's not always getting it 100% right, because, like, wherever you're undefined, you will always have those sponge moments,
Hmm.
because you're not a robot, right? You're still human, right? You're still gonna absorb that energy, and it's just recognizing, "Oh, I'm sponging right now. I'm absorbing, I have an opportunity to be more of a sieve as I work through what's going on," and that way you're not getting lost in the heaviness. You're
Yeah.
simply recognizing that, "Okay, I'm having a moment. I'm having my moment where I am absorbing maybe more than I want to. However, I'm gonna go through my whole experience. I'm gonna get through this, and I'm gonna take the lesson on the other side." You know what's really interesting as you were talking, that it didn't dawn on me until you were going through it, is, yes, there's likely an element that being undefined emotionally is one thing versus your husband who's defined emotionally. Also, left angle versus right angle.
That's true. That's
Y
true. Yeah.
You see and experience a broader angle of the world?
Well, the left angle being interpersonal
Yes, like,
by
you're
definition.
especially as a 6th line too.
Yeah.
You're looking out on the horizon, you're seeing the bigger picture, like, so I think it's, and the reason that it came up is that despite the fact I'm also emotionally undefined, and I can be more of a sponge than a sieve a lot of times, I find myself in the same boat as your husband, but I'm also a right angle, and I'm the rightest of right angles, right? I'm like the number 1 right angle, not number 1 in terms of hierarchy or priority. I just come first. None of that makes sense, listener, but if you know what I'm talking about, you know what I'm talking about. Because I find that, like, I'm gonna say this, and again, I'm really self-absorbed right now in my own process, in in processing the shit that's going on personally in my life, and in the broader spectrum of what's going on in the world. I know it's there, but I'm making the choice that I can't get involved right now, right? And I wonder if there's an element to those aspects, is that, uh, I'm gonna say this, and I'm gonna use words that probably aren't gonna they don't let's go back to the episode where we talked, don't always take words literally. Like, right angles are here, and by right angle, when we say that, profiles that are 1, 3 through 4, 6, really, from a human design standpoint. We're here to create our own karma. And I don't mean karma in the way that karma typically is understood. It's like we're just here to create our own thing in the world. And left angles, so 5 1s, 5 2s, 6 2s, and 6 3s are here to clean up that karma.
Yeah, thanks, guys.
Yeah, no problem. Welcome. Um, but also recognize that sometimes we are so damn innocent, we actually have no idea what the hell's going on. So, on behalf of all right angles, we don't do it intentionally. um, but also recognizing that you're here to have the wisdom. Like part of your contribution is to see this bigger picture and to come back into the world as the role model and be like, guys, this isn't what's working. Or guys, for you specifically, guys, I went through my process. I did my whole thing. I got through and here are my lessons. And now I'm presenting myself as a role model hermit. I did all my hermiting. Now I'm here to tell you this is what's working and this is what's not. And oh, by the way, if we keep doing this shit, we're not going to get anywhere.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that's what it feels like for sure. And
Yeah.
I mean, I'm a 6'2" my profile, but I also have, again, 8 different 6 lines throughout my entire, chart, which is a lot.
Yeah. And
It's
it's
my
all
most
going to depend on where they are on the planets and now that energy connect to that. And it's like, ugh.
Yeah. And I've said that many, many times where that uh, I can't look away.
Mhm.
I can't look away from the income disparity we have, I can't look away from the actual experience, even in the economy, in the US economy right now, we have a very economists call it a K-shaped recovery, meaning some people are going straight up and some people are going straight down. It looks like a K
Okay.
if you look on a chart. So it's a K-shaped economy right now. And I could just focus on the people that can buy your product. Focus on the people that can buy your services. Just speak to their experience. Just speak, and everything in my being says that we cannot do that. That is incorrect from a human standpoint for us to literally just stay in our economic bubble and pretend like that's the only experience that exists. Um, and that has been that piece of it, right? Like learning how to process and square that, and then what do we do about it, right? Like I feel like that's actually like a bigger process. It has been. That's decades probably away to like be able to really be able to speak to that enough. Again, like feeling all of that, feeling that heaviness. Um, as we were talking, like the sponge and the sieve, I've noticed that actually over this week, I've cried almost every day this week. And when I am sponging a lot of things up, what do I need to do? I love the ocean metaphor just works so well. I'm just going to keep going with it, right? What do I need? I need to wring out my sponge, and I just need to cry about who knows what. Um, Sunday, it was just releasing some of that was kind of bottled up. Um, every other day has been something totally different and random. I just find myself crying in the car or crying at home or crying over what, like just tears. But that's again, literally the release of like, okay, it's an actual hormonal release. It's physical, like release of pressure and tension.
Yeah.
Uh, and that, yeah, like again, just wring out the sponge, let it go.
Yeah. It's a physiological response
Yeah.
of and this again, coming back to the message, like this is why it's so important to really understand yourself. One, so you can give yourself grace as you're going through these things, right? And I think a lot of times if we're tying it back to, what we really work on is like discovery, alignment, and expansion, and looking at it from a leadership standpoint, it's like when we're so absorbed or involved or sponging up our professional life, right? Like there's so many things that are going on. So like we are an autonomous entity in this bigger environment, whether you're running a business, you're owning a business. And I can remember, you just talking about, like, I can remember driving home from days and just like crying my eyes out. One, because I was so incredibly frustrated. And as a generator, it was like at the time I didn't know what that meant, but I was like, why the fuck is this like so hard? And then beating myself up because it's like, just get over it. It's not that big of a deal. Or as my son would say, it's not that deep, or like get yourself together, or it shouldn't be this hard, or you need to be better than this, or nobody else is crying in their car on the way home. I can guarantee you they probably were, but like, yeah, right. Some of the companies that I work for. Um, but that's why it's so important to understand, is because when you understand the energy you're putting out into the world and the energy that you're taking in from the world, you can at least start to unravel, like, well, why am I so emotional this week? Well, maybe we don't really know why this week is hitting you the way that it's hitting you, but you have an awareness of, maybe I'm taking in a little bit more emotion than or or uh, as I'm taking it in, I've got a store already built up that I didn't know,
Yeah.
and now I've got to get it out. I've got to get it somewhere. And when we partner with clients, that's what we're doing, is we're helping you understand your position in the bigger context so that you can optimize how you show up, how you relate to other people, and give yourself grace for the things that you are experiencing that are happening outside of you, because you have no control over what happens outside of you. I was going to say, you only have control of how you kind of respond or approach the world. But sometimes you don't, right? I mean, sometimes the tears just come and you're like, well, okay, those are coming today. And okay, that tells me something. So let me get through the experience so that I can start to unearth maybe some of the things that are going on. And I can be okay with myself that am not broken.
Mhm.
I'm not wrong. I'm just maybe absorbing too much, or have absorbed too much. And now I've got to get rid of some because it's all too heavy. And again, it's like how you find yourself in what's going on versus getting consumed or lost in everything going on around you, as a leader, as a business owner, and knowing that you are a human inside of a multiple human experiences
Yeah.
and a gigantic human experience all at the same time.
Yeah. Yeah. I do think there are some people who are better at compartmentalizing,
100%.
right, than
100%.
others. And there could be energetic reasons for that. And there's also, learned behaviors as well. I saw a TikTok this week that made me laugh. It was a skit of a woman being like, "Oh, the point of view being you're traveling with your type B coworker on a work trip, and she's just like doesn't have her charger, didn't bring any of the right clothes, like thought they were going somewhere completely different and didn't bring a coat, doesn't know that she's the one leading the workshop tomorrow, like all of it, right? So it's your type B. And what was hilarious about that was that like my initial feeling, and I commented it, so a lot of people agreed with me, apparently it's hilarious, was that like, oh, what about those of us who used to be fully type A and now are feeling very type B? I can't remember. Oh, it's literally probably 5 of the last 6 or 7 work trips I've gone on, I've forgotten a charger, for my phone, and I've had to buy another one. So shoot. Um, so, I mean, again, like, I also attribute some of that literally to the healing process as well, that a lot of my type A-ness was actually me putting up guardrails and systems and protections and masking who I truly was and what actually worked for me to fit into first my family system when I was a child and then into the work systems that I was within. And so I built all of that scaffolding around myself to prop me up, to be perfect, to not make mistakes, to make sure that I was like always, going above and beyond, always
Yeah.
able to drop anything when another advisor needed me to do something at a moment's notice, all of that. Um, that again, what we attribute to that type A-ness was like a good portion of that was actually just trauma response.
Yeah. A facade.
Mhm.
And
Or
and
mask.
and yeah, and not an intentional one. It's not like you were like, "Oh, I'm gonna," it's just, what it's a natural is not the word I'm looking that I want. It's a common response, right? And as you're talking, I'm like, when the hell did we like, well, God, words don't come to me anymore. When the hell did we like prop up type A? Like, when did that become the standard, right? It's like, 'cause sometimes it's exhausting being around. It's like, and I can be that way too. I'm very particular about very specific things, but most things I'm a type B. I'm like, that's fine. I don't, whatever. And and but throughout my life, it's like, well, Lauren, you need to get yourself together. You need to be this. You need to be more this. You need to be more that. And I would say that I probably had a similar experience. Is that this perfectionist in terms of um, always being the top performer, like always like stepping up and doing the thing and being the one who's like, yep, I'm ready to go. I'll do it. And proving that I can be the one among everybody else who can rise up and I was gonna say be the savior. That's not it. It's more of like, no, just watch what I can do kind of thing, I guess. But yeah, when we propped up type A is and recognizing that and as you were talking, I was like, yeah, type A isn't necessarily everybody. Maybe it's not correct for everybody. And that's when we talk about systems. And I think that's a great way to like really communicate when we talk about systems and how we support people. It's like, what are the systems that you live in? Like, what are the systems that you've created for yourself? That's a great example of like, well, I'm really type A, but are you really type A? Are you a little bit more, fly by the seat of your pants? And if you are, perfect, right? Because I'm gonna guess you're probably friends with somebody who's very type A. They can bring all the shit.
Right?
Let them do it. They got 9 chargers. Like, I just need the one, right? Like, it's just as you're talking, it's like, yeah, when did that become the thing? When did that become the mold? Because it's exhausting, and it can be.
Right, and that's I love that you brought in the systems piece into that because that is, part of the work is looking at where are you actually spending, um where are you spending your energy is one of the specific questions that we look at and that we ask, because where you're spending your energy is that's your most valuable resource. Where your energy goes, what you are what you are focusing on, what you're allowing yourself to be when you're allowing yourself to be pulled in 40 different directions, um, or, putting out fires instead of, your day is like, okay, I got to come in and respond to email and put out all the fires. And then I might have a little bit of time to work on the things that are important, my actual tasks that will actually, push, push whatever objectives you have forward. The systems around you come from what you allow your energy to be spent on. And so when we take a look at that, when we actually like dive in, like how does it feel to be spending that much of your time in those areas. Like, where are you actually spending your time? How does it feel? Where are you feeling like, yeah, that's actually not a place I just have to, or I think I have to, usually. I think I have to do that, but I know it feels awful and I'm drained. And then when I'm done with that thing, whatever it is, I'm like, my energy is just done for the rest of the day. That means it's too expensive. It's too expensive energetically. If that's, having, I don't know, the thing that's coming up is like having one on ones with people is the example that came up, right? Like, is that something that you actually need to do the way that it's being done right now? Or is that something that we can look at? Is there a shift? Is there a way? Or is there another person that needs to come in and do that? Right? Like there's so many ways that we can look at systems but we get entrenched in the this is how I'm doing it now, or this is how my predecessor did it, or this is how my coach told me I should do it, or this is how, this online guru in a course said that I'm supposed to do it. And we just take those on as our own rather than actually looking at, again, the map of our energy, what what we are actually available for, what we're actually most suited to, and then mapping that over. Okay, where are you actually spending your time and your energy and your money, all of those things together, but like in service to your energy um, most specifically. And I want to be clear that when I'm saying energy, I'm not talking necessarily in a metaphysical woo sense. That's certainly part of it, but I mean, like, again, how do you feel when you get in the car to go home? That that is your energy. Do you still have room in the tank for your children? Do you still have room in the tank for to think about dinner? That energy,
Mhm.
that's what I'm literally talking about, at this moment. When I talked about crying and, like, letting it like, wringing out the sponge, that takes energy. That, like, takes it out of me for a while, right? So if I'm in that all the time, it's not the best use of my energy, but sometimes I have to process things.
Yeah.
And so what are the other things that today I went for a run around the neighborhood. It was gorgeous. I just pause and put that there. It's absolutely gorgeous today. So I had a wonderful run.
Yay.
And that, like, again, that really helped.
Yes.
That really helped move some of the stagnant stuff so that I could get that out and have space.
Yeah. And there was a couple of things in there that were absolutely beautifully said in how you describe systems. Like, and also recognizing that, like, you brought up a great example, like, constantly coming in and responding to email and, not getting to the bigger items. You know, we've also found sometimes that, like, the opposite is true. Like, this pressure that you always need to be the strategist and the big level thinker and da da da. And sometimes you just want to sit down and just answer some emails and just get them off your plate. And yeah, I'd rather sit here and respond to something rather than get whatever, kind of think up these big items. And that's what we really work with, is this idea of, like, it's not about always following this ingrained system that you think you need to follow. It's looking at your energy metaphysically and uh, literally, like, how are those two things coming together, and how do we shift these systems to get the most out of you, whether you're a business owner or a business leader. And then the other thing too is sometimes you've got to expend energy to find energy, right? This idea that, like, oh, I'm so exhausted. And I'll say this in the context of generators, because it probably applies to generators more than anybody else, is that sometimes if you're feeling really drained, like, to the point where you are just, like, so exhausted, which this is the challenging thing until you start actually working with your energy, is like, generators are here to reach exhaustion. Like, we're here to, like, nope, energy's done. It's gone. It's and then tomorrow I get up and do my thing. However, when generators or manifesting generators, doesn't matter, are using their energy incorrectly. You're going to reach the level of exhaustion faster because it's not being directed towards things that are actually satisfying for you. So, in a weird way, actually expending energy in a way that's satisfying for you. So, your example is the run can actually recharge the battery to then go back and say, okay, what is my energy available for right now? And that's what we help do is like, again, it's not always going to be perfect. It's not always going to be like this cookie cutter as easily as we explain it kind of model. But when you start, one, understanding these concepts, two, playing with them, that's the whole point is like, we can't actually tell you what to do. And no one out there can really tell you the strategy that's going to be absolute 100% perfect for you. We can give you the foundation and the support you as you go through it to say like, "Oh, okay, great. Let's hear what you've experienced and then we can support you in moving forward." But you've got to do the work. You've got to figure out like, "Okay, where is my energy right now?"
Mhm.
Okay, it doesn't feel great. So let me go for a run or let me walk around the neighborhood. Let me in my instance, let me vacuum my house cuz that just I don't know, unlocks something for me. But and those are like that's when we talk about systems, it's you taking a step back and looking at your systems and being like, what is it that I do every day? And what works and what doesn't?
Mhm. Well, yeah, and then in the context of what just came out for me from that, in the context of, working with others, working in teams, working in partnership, um, like, understanding each person in that. And you kinda mentioned it when we were talking type A and type B, right? It's like, you're not here to hold all of it. None of us can. None of us are capable. We're not supposed to. We're not supposed to hold it all, whatever the it all is for you. We are meant to be in community, in collaboration somehow. And so knowing, again, going through this process, like, it's so interesting, even, like, on the financial planning side to do when I work with couples and each person, you know, I get to hear, "Okay, what's your ideal day? What's your vision of the future?" But I wanna hear it separately.
Yes.
I wanna hear what yours is, and I wanna hear what yours is, and they're different for a reason, right? They're you're different people. You have different ways that, different things that seem exciting, and then there are places where you come together, and places exactly the same in a business partnership, right? You probably have talked about different goals for the future together. You probably have talked about visions. We've talked about visions for Expansive CEO. We've talked about, the different cool things that we could do together. And we each have a different set of skills and a different set of like, oh, this thing is exciting to me and this thing is exciting to me. The beauty is when you can find those things that are like, oh, you're excited about that aspect. Lauren can give the example like of like thinking about writing the emails and how to make them better and how to like what's the way that we can be more effective over here. I'm like, that sounds great. I have zero energy for that. Right? Like, yes, I would love for that to keep moving and I don't have any desire to do it myself. But you're over here like having all these thoughts and doing all these things and like I want to do this. Yeah, please. That's the most like again like like super tangible use of that of like where is your energy right now? What is the thing, right? What's going to move things forward? And also how do we delegate in ways that it's like we are each using our most effective energy?
Yeah. And recognizing sometimes you just got to do shit you don't want to do. right? And stuff that drains your energy in a way that is um that might go against your metaphysical energy and how it's designed to be used, and to recognize, hey, sometimes we just have to eat the frog and or bite the bullet, or whatever metaphor or euphemism you want to throw in here. You just gotta put your head down and do it, and recognize that you have the opportunity to go back and that your systems aren't always fail proof. They're not always foolproof, and that there are systems that are going to feel really great, and you're just going to be all in it because you're utilizing how you're here to do things. And then other ones you're just going to trudge through, and you're going to be like, okay, we're just going to get through it and be okay with it. And recognizing that. And I also think that's a really important part of learning who you are, and kind of going back to the idea of self leadership, is knowing that, like, prior to understanding how my energy is designed to be used, I would get so angry and frustrated about the things that I don't want to do, and like work against myself because I was just like, well, so stubborn and just like, nope, not going to do it. And then it's kind of like, okay, let's take a 20 here and have grace for the situation, have grace for myself, and recognize it's short lived, it's temporary. I can do this thing for a little bit, and then know that it's going to be, there's an end point, right? There's a lesson somewhere, or maybe there's not. Maybe the lesson is just like, sometimes you got to put your head down and do stuff you don't want to do. Great, that's a great lesson. All
Mhm.
right. But, it's also one part of a bigger whole, and there's opportunities to move through that. But again, I think it goes back to really understanding yourself, because I could, knowing me and who I am and how my metaphysical energy works, is I would put a lot of shame and guilt and blame on myself. Like, well, why don't you want to do these things? Because you should do this. And because you're not doing it, you're not going to get. And it's like, okay, let's stop with that inner critic kind of language, and just say, okay, this is just something that not lighting my fire, but it absolutely has to be done.
Mhm. Yeah, I have, a mentor share with me once her strategy, for that, which is great. She's also a generator, pure generator, that before she was able to hire more people in different spots in the business, right? She literally had like a couple of different hats. And so she would be like, all right, I got to go into admin mode. So I'm going to put on my admin hat. I'm going to be like a different persona to like move through that quickly. Like this person is, you know, she's great at this and she loves it and she can move through it really quick. And I thought that was hilarious. I loved it. And then eventually, she was able to hire the EA that she needed and build out her team the way she needed. But in that interim, yes, like or in any interim, like, okay, if someone leaves and you got to put that hat back on for a little bit until you find someone else, right? It's like we do have the ability and the capacity. I have clients, the same, CEOs that, they were the main salesperson for a long time, and they maybe have been able to elevate themselves out of the sales role. But when stuff happens, it's like, all right, it's time to put the sales hat on for a second again. Time to re-mentor the sales team again and come back into that a little bit. And just knowing that it's like that's also part of the cycle in the process.
Yes. And that's where it's really important to actually know yourself, because if you're so ingrained in a system, or you've been working so long against your own, the way you're here to operate, it can almost be impossible to have that level of healthy disconnect between you and that thing you need to do. You can just get so resentful and bitter and frustrated and angry and disappointed in that thing, if you're so ingrained in a system that isn't designed for you. So I just want to point out because you're absolutely right. Like if you're in a not- if you're in a healthy enough space about your own self-awareness, you can move a little bit easier in between those kinds of things. But if you are so far gone against, and I don't mean that in a bad way, I simply mean just like you're operating so far into your not self and against how your energy is designed to be used, it can be almost impossible to find that healthy disconnect. And so, again, it goes back to this is why it's so super important to understand yourself now more than ever when there is so much going on, not only in your own immediate environment, but the bigger environment. So you can create a little bit more healthy distance between who you are and the shit you have to do that you don't want to do.
Such a good point. Such a good way to put it. Um, and to go into our, w- I feel like next time we should go into this more, like the actual discovery, alignment, expansion piece, that alignment piece, and they're all interconnected. They go together for a reason. The discovery of, yeah, what is it? How are things actually working right now? What are you doing right now? Where are you spending your time, money, and energy? All of that is really, really important because then the alignment phase is, yeah, let's actually see where you should be. And I use should with a grain of salt. Um, I don't use the word should all that much, but it's like, where are you more suited?
Yes, we're designed to be. Where are you more suited to be?
Yeah, exactly. And the aligning piece is all about like, okay, here's everything we found. Here's what we did in discovery. Here's where we know, you're kicking ass, and here's where you're feeling like you're getting your ass kicked. let's let's shift it more, right? Like how can we get you more into the everything's kicking ass right now? um and that's again, that's alignment. And that's how you then learn how to move as you, and practice, to your point, practice moving as you, and experiment with it and work through things. Learn it gets easier to work through the heaviness
Yes.
when you know,
Yes.
have get into your own energy. My
Yes.
last example I'll give, again, like my undefined solar plexus, like feeling those emotions everywhere with my family, collectively, all of it, being able to process that through, you know, if I have to cry, if I have to whatever, remembering how to process that is super important. Also remembering it's not mine. Some of it is mine, a lot of it is not mine. And being able to identify what's mine and what's not is so, so important. That's the sieve, right? Like let it go, let it through so you can identify what's there. But I also have an undefined root, and that undefined root feels the pressure of everything else around me all the time. And like, gotta get it done because the undefined root, just like the undefined solar plexus wants to get out of conflict. I don't want to feel the conflict. I don't want to feel these emotions. I want it to just be peaceful.
Right. And that conflict isn't always with other people. It's just conflict in the emotion.
Right. Exactly. Exactly. It just feels it. The root is all about pressure. And so feeling the pressure, feeling someone sent me an email and they're expecting a response. So I have to feel that pressure inside of me until I get that. I want to get out of it as soon as possible. I don't want that pressure on me. Again, that's maybe not necessary, right? We get to filter that. Oh, that's their, like they get to deal with that. That's not mine to deal with. Understanding the boundaries of, again, what's yours, what's not yours. And then you get to address it appropriately rather than always from that initial reaction of, I want to get out of the conflict, or I want to get free from the pressure, or I want to be
Right.
free from the uncertainty, whatever, whatever center we're talking about.
Right. And to clarify, right? It when you say it's not yours to deal with, meaning like you don't have to succumb to that pressure, right? And it's likely that the other person on the other end, yes, they're expecting an answer, but not at superhuman speeds. Like, and it's in this idea of like, okay, I can find a different speed for myself, right? The pressure is all built up internally. It's like, and again, it's whatever center is there that's open, that you're gonna feel this pressure regardless of whatever the energy really is. But that idea of your mind's making up the story of, oh God, the only way I relieve this pressure is that I get it to them immediately. And it's like, yeah, they probably don't care. They care, but not at the level your mind believes they care. And I'm saying you collectively. That is a yeah.
Exactly. Exactly. And then is there a system that we can put in place to make that right? I have one friend and client who has excellent email boundaries. And she has templates of like, oh, I am, we received your email. We'll get back to you within 24 hours. But it's not like it absolutely like lets you know your email did land. It will be seen. It will not be seen in the next 20 minutes. So don't expect that.
Yeah. Right.
Excellent, excellent boundaries.
Yes. That brings up a hilarious story. So the last corporate role that I held, there was this unspoken rule that you responded to every email within 24 hours. And when I heard that in my mind as a defined route, I was like, no, no, it's going to be on my time, not yours. Fun fact. However, because of the environment, it was almost impossible not to succumb to that pressure. And in my own experience, in my own experiment, I'd love to hear your perspective too, in a defined center. Yes, I have a defined route, so I experience the pressure consistently. But it's almost as if that gets amplified, that pressure gets amplified to the point of implosion, explosion, depending on combustion. Let's just call it combustion. And it was almost damn near impossible because it was like, well, I sent it to you 5 hours ago. I've been in meetings for the last 700 days straight. Like, how the hell am I supposed to get to an email? Right? It was like those sorts of things. But therein lies the beauty of working in this kind of partnership. It's like, okay, then we can work to set the most appropriate boundaries and have the most appropriate conversations. Also recognizing that, hey, sometimes the environment is going to put a lot more pressure on you than you maybe want to deal with or feel equipped to deal with. But there are ways to address it.
Hmm.
Because typically we all tend, especially again, open solar plexus. I was just gonna shut up and not deal with anything. So I was just gonna answer the damn emails
Right.
all
Right.
night long.
Yeah. I don't want to feel your anger coming at me. Uh,
Okay. But then I was frustrated as hell and my anger came out. So, you know, it would have behooved me to deal with the email challenge a little bit better than I did.
yeah. And I think again, when we talk from a systems perspective, it's hey, like when you're sending emails with your team, when do you need a response by? Right? Like actually being clear about, hey, and you do this with me all the time. Like, hey, I'm thinking about this thing, doesn't need a response right now. Just when you're available to look at it, can you you know, give me a heads up? And from that perspective, it's like, oh, okay. So it's a thing, it's over there. I need to get to it, but it's not a 4 alarm fire. And just being able to communicate that so that when something is more urgent, like email issue that came up the other week, right? It was like, hey, this thing is happening right now. Can you go check? Then it's a different energy of, right? It's like, oh, not everything needs to happen immediately. Just this one thing if you can, right? Th- Literally, the communication of that
Yes.
sets the container,
Yes.
creates the system that then works across the board. And so if that had been established in your other role, right, back in corporate, if people were able to say, this thing is happening on Thursday, it's a Monday. This thing is happening on Thursday. I need to understand XYZ by Tuesday so I can prep. That, like, okay, well, then they can chill out till Tuesday and you can put that in the queue of priority versus like, nope, just need it right now. Oh no, we're having a freeze. Hey, you're fine.
Weird.
There you are. You're back.
Okay. I
I'm
was
gonna
like,
mark
"We're
it.
okay, cool.
We just need it right now. I'm gonna mark this again. I made a mark on the other one. So just need it right now.
Okay,
And
good.
we're live again.
Okay, cool. No.
Maybe. Oh no, what is happening?
Uh, okay, there you are. Do you need to
I
mark it
heard
again?
you. There you are.
I don't know
What is
what's going on.
happening?
Hey, there you are.
Yeah, my Wi-Fi is showing like full. It says like make sure you have a stable internet connection, but my Wi-Fi is showing like 3 bars.
Same.
Okay. Stop.
All right, we can clean it up. It's fine.
Clean that up too. Okay, we're back. Um anyway, we were just talking about, that creating the systems in your business so that you don't have to worry about um, responding immediately, that when we communicate, similar to, the email boundary that I mentioned before, like you have time. If you need
Yes.
something sooner, you can mark it as more urgent, but understanding that like the better you communicate with people about when you need something, that also communicates to the root pressure that we can prioritize correctly.
Yeah. I mean, and I think that's what's super important about knowing anybody who's on your team, whether you're a leader or a business owner, they're designed so that you can create more effective systems. Doesn't mean they're going to be perfect. Doesn't mean they're not fail proof or foolproof. It simply means that you're starting to come from your energy and knowing that however it's designed could have a unaware influence on the other person's energy, right? And that was a very intentional call on my end, knowing that you have an undefined root and I have a very defined root, right? And so unbeknownst to me, I can put a lot of pressure on people. I'm not trying to. It's just I know no different because it's what I experience all the time. And so it was just a matter of, hey, you get to it when you get to it. I'm just putting this out there because if I don't, ironically, the pressure will build up inside of me because I have this hanging thing. And so it's not that I'm creating something hanging for you. It's more of like, it's out there. We do it. We'll get to it when we need to. Um, but yeah, and it's the same with, like somebody, if you're emotionally defined and one of your team members is not, right? Recognizing that they're going to have emotional outbursts. Doesn't matter how hard they're working at processing their own emotions. They're going to react emotionally to things that happen inside the business. It's It's not personal. It may feel personal to them. It's not personal. And so allowing them space and giving them the grace of like, hey, you probably sponged a little bit too much in there. What's going on? What's coming up for you? How do we give you the space so you can process what you're going through? As opposed to, what the hell did you just do in that meeting? Why did you get so emotionally charged? That's so unprofessional. Please don't tell me that having emotions is unprofessional.
Right.
Please. I'll bitch slap you. 100%.
That's something we can that feels like it needs to shift in the 2020s, hopefully going into next where we can make this better. This
Right.
can
I mean,
shift.
it's the whole thing. You're allowed to have emotions. Just recognize that how they're processed has an effect on people. You can have emotions. That doesn't mean that all behaviors tied to those emotions are acceptable, but emotions are not unprofessional. Sometimes the behavior related to emotions can be unprofessional.
Yes. Yeah, and that's oh god, we could do a whole,
Well, episode.
um, n so much about that because it is, how we allow ourselves again, that time to sponge, to recognizing when we've been picking up everyone else's emotions, how we release it, that is not that is not meant to be dumped on everyone else, right? Like, that is not emotional intelligence, that is not emotional processing. Um, so that's a whole other piece. But to recognize rather when we practice this over and over on any of those undefined centers that you might have, that becomes wisdom. It becomes so much wisdom that if someone is feeling all of the emotions in the room, there's actually something that can be noticed there, right? Like, oh, actually, like that room felt really tense. It felt like a lot of people were not on the same page. That needs to be talked about, right? That brings forward information material that we can work through as a team, because if someone's picking up on all of that, it means it's in the room. So getting to that point of like this is a center of wisdom is the real, like, once you're through that deconditioning process, or once you've been aware of it and you've been practicing it, that's the absolute superpower that can lie there.
Yes, absolutely.
So, for today, if you need to, I think our uh, homework, if you will, if you're also feeling like things have been heavy, if you're also feeling like you've been a sponge too much, just notice. Notice how if you've been sponging things up too, versus again being a sieve and letting it go. And if you just need to cry it out, or if you need to go for a run, or if you need to take a hike, or what are some of yours? Those are some of mine.
Journal.
Journal, that's such a good one.
Put it somewhere other than your mind.
Yeah. Ooh,
Get it
and
out of you.
yeah, and especially if it's heavy, heavy emotions, anger, frustration, like, getting it out in the journal, you can also rip that out and rip it up and burn it, and, like, that is also a good way to process and let go.
And sometimes, and I'm gonna say that it's gonna sound counterintuitive, but sometimes if you allow yourself the opportunity to be really, I'm gonna say, petty and immature, right? Sometimes to just to experience, like, the raw emotion, that you experience, and just getting out and just being like, "Oh, okay. Got it out. That feels good." And I'm gonna say, sometimes I scream into a pillow 'cause, why not?
Yep. Yep, I've done those as well, but yes, the journaling and, like, not holding any letting every thought out, especially in that context, that can be super helpful, and I will say this because this is another interesting little piece. Again, I don't know, I'd be so curious to hear if that works for people who are emotionally defined as well.
Mm,
I use my husband as a proxy all the time because he's tried that, he's like, "It doesn't make me feel better." That
interesting.
doesn't work for him specifically.
Yeah.
He's emotionally defined, but that for me, that has helped before. And also to recognize what's there,
Yes. not
not necessarily just to, like, get it out there, but just to recognize everything that's there and be like, "Oh, that was a lot to now I can let it go."
Yeah, and I've noticed sometimes that if I do a lot of stream of consciousness kind of journaling, and I recognize that oftentimes I'll have a lot of, "Oh my god, that's what it is," right? It'll just, like, come up and out, and you're like, "Oh, holy shit. I found it. I found the root, and we're either gonna pull it out because that's what needs to come out, or gonna we're gonna pat the soil down and make sure it stays," depending on whatever the situation is. But I'll have a lot of like, "Oh, did not see that one coming, but there it is." Or
Yes.
or to
Yeah.
your point, like, ripping it out or when you're done with the journal and actually this just I tend to keep my journals, but now I'm like, "I wonder if I just throw them away." You know? I don't need the energy anymore, right? Being so defined on my spleen, oftentimes it's like I never go back and read my journal because it's like, "No, I got it out. It's over. The moment is past." Right, kinda thing? Maybe that's why from an emotional standpoint, it may not necessarily always feel better because 'cause they're constantly moving in between their wave, whereas we're just like, "Yeah, we're done now. Okay, it's fine. Great."
Yeah. I don't know. If you were listening and you have a defined solar plexus, oh, like, tell us, we wanna know. Does that work for you? I would love to hear, because I don't think I've ever asked that question to anyone else.
Mm,
Um,
never even thought of it.
yeah, I don't know. It's all research, I love it. So,
I know, right?
dear listener, thank you for being here with us as we process and, hopefully as we help you process, and we will look more we're this whole month and, even setting up for the future, just really, really understanding who you are, discovering who you are, aligning your systems into that to work better with who you are so that you can experience the expansion that's available to you. Discovery, alignment, expansion, baby. We're getting there.
It's that simple. Not easy, but it's that simple.
Love it. All right. You know our email. If you want to send us any questions, we would love to hear from you. Check out any of the newsletter you can get involved in and see what's coming up. If for anything that is coming up soon. I don't think we have anything right this moment.
No, no, but we're just gonna continue to on this path of discovery, alignment, and expansion, and looking at I'm, like, obsessed with systems at the moment and
Lo-
looking at those.
Love it, love it. All right. We will see you next week. Thanks for being with us.